So that really leads to the question is, what is the difference between subjective standards and objective standards, and what are some examples of both? And what happens if the city does not have objective design and development standards? So subjective standards. Now, these are taken from Brisbane's code, but I will say if you look at any zoning ordinance throughout California, you'll find a lot of the same type of language. A proposal scale, so a new housing development scale, form, proportion are harmonious, and the materials and colors used to complement this complement this project. The project integrates well with each other and maintains a compatible relationship to adjacent development. So currently, any development that has to go through the design review process, and this is key, the projects that have to go through the design review process in Brisbane are single-family homes that are ridgeline development. Most single-family home does not have to go through this process. So single-family homes on the ridgeline, multifamily development, so buildings with 3 housing units or more, and mixed-use development that contains at least 1 housing unit, so something perhaps a ground floor commercial with a residential above. Now, these terms, harmonious, complement the project, integrate well, maintain a compatible relationship, are subjective really because 2 reasonable people, whether they're sitting on the planning commission, sitting on the city council, or residents, really could have different interpretations. There's no definition of harmonious or complement or integrate well or maintain compatible relationship. So that puts property owners and developers of housing in an awkward position where they don't know whether or not they'll be able to gain approval, and state law does not want to have that happen. So what are objective standards? Well, they're quantifiable, they're measurable. So here's 2 examples, and these are actually from City of Brisbane's Parkside Precise Plan that was adopted a few years ago, and these are compliant with state code. The first is that 3rd stories shall be set back at least 5 feet from the wall plane of the 2nd story and 1st stories below. So that's very measurable. You have your 1st story, you have your 2nd story, and the 3rd story has to be set back 5 feet. Here's a second example. At least 50% of planes of the exterior walls along public streets shall vary in depth or direction using cornices, recesses, bay windows, overhangs. So cornices, recesses, bay windows, overhangs, those are known architectural features, and 50% you can measure. You can measure 50% of the exterior walls and see if it meets that standard. So what happens if cities don't adopt these objective standards? Well, to put it, the long story short is that you really limit the discretion that cities have. What the state is allowing cities to do, and it really is an opportunity, is to maximize your discretion by front-loading that discretion. So if you do not have these, though, whatever's in your code is the only thing that you could review developments by. And any subjective standards, so those harmonious words, those integrate well words, are thrown out. Cities cannot use those anymore when trying to make findings for approval for these developments. So you really end up having minimal discretion. So your city would continue to review housing developments, but there really wouldn't be a lot for the city to go on whether or not to approve those developments. You would just need to approve them.